Hello, my name's Martyn Greenwood. I'm the Assistant Librarian at Airedale NHS Foundation Trust, and this is the first video in a series I've made on search skills. As a librarian, it's tempting to show you all the resources the library subscribes to straight away, and although you can access many more journal articles through our subscription databases than you can from a general purpose search engine like Google, I realise that unless finding information is a big part of your day-to-day life, that Google is likely to be your go-to search tool for most things. In this video, I will show you a combination of features and techniques you can use in Google to enhance your searches. Google certainly finds a lot of results, and it does so very quickly. You can see here at the top just how many results have been found in under a second. And this means there are going to be tens of thousands, if not millions, of pages of results. Should you look at hundreds of results even if the first page appears to contain everything you need? It all depends on what you are looking for and how much information you think you need. The more time you have, the more thorough you can be. If you're writing an essay, then you're going to want to go beyond the first few pages to get a better overview of what information is available. The best starting point, though, for a quick everyday search on Google is to decide which results on the first page are likely to be the most reliable. Google orders the results based on what pages the algorithms decide contain the most relevant information. However, the most relevant information is not always the most reliable information. Here I'm going to look for the opening hours of a local post office. So I can see straight away in this box on the right, it's telling me that it's currently open and it closes at 7 p.m. If I click on this downward arrow, I can see the opening hours for the whole week. So, should I stop there? I've got the opening hours. Is that enough? Well, actually what I'm going to do is look at a couple of the results on here just to double check. Now, businesses usually submit their own information to Google, and that's what you see here, but it's possible that it might not be completely up to date. Now, when you're looking through the results, a quick way of skimming through so that you're not spending lots and lots of time reading all the information is to look first at the URL, so the web address. So you can ignore the description underneath. And usually that's just come from somewhere on the page. It could be anywhere on the page, and you don't always get a full sentence. We're really just interested in the URL, and you might not think to look for that first because it is in a smaller font to the rest of the information. So looking down, I can see some URLs that wouldn't be my first port of call. So here there's a link to Facebook, Local Mint, these websites here, opening hours post offices near me. These are directories of information, so they're likely to have sourced that information from an official source and collated it, so it might not actually be totally up to date. So really here I'm going to just look at postoffice.co.uk and royalmail.com because those are the official websites for those services. And I get a map so I can see where the post office is. That says open until 4 p.m, so that's different to what I was seeing on Google. And here are the opening hours for the week. So those are quite different. It's much later opening and much earlier closing than what I was seeing on Google. So let's just check the post office website, because here it's telling me to do that. It's saying that that has the most up-to-date opening hours. So again, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday to Friday, and slightly different on a weekend. It's closed on a Sunday. So that tallies with what the Royal Mail was telling me. It's different from what's over here, and a clue to why it is different is the business name that appears here. So it says Eastbourne Store and Post Office. So what I'm assuming from this information is that these are actually the opening hours of the store, and that the post office is a counter within the shop, and that has different opening hours. So that wasn't apparent from what information was here. It's not that the information here is inaccurate, it's just incomplete, because it doesn't tell me that there are different opening hours for the post office. I only found that by looking at a couple of results. But by looking at the URL, I was able to identify which results were worth looking at. And those were the first two results in the list, but what you will find sometimes with some searches is that you do have to go through the list and perhaps a couple of pages to find some reliable sources of information. You may wonder why there were so many results for opening hours for a specific post office. It's the same reason why many commercial websites exist. When you visit a website and see an advert for another website or business, that generates revenue for the website you're viewing.
This is partly why there is so much content online. A large website with lots of pages is more likely to match people's searches than a small website with just a few pages. On a larger site, there are more words and more combinations of words to choose from. The problem with this way of working is that it can lead to the creation of poorly researched content. You may have heard the term clickbait. This refers to the links and adverts for online articles that catch people's attention with shocking revelations or promises that seem too good to be true. The huge number of these types of articles has added to the problem of information overload, the notion that there is simply too much information available and that it is difficult to sort the good from the bad. One of the problems with Google search results is that you get different types of information in the same list. Here are some of the types of information you are likely to find for a health-related search. Notice that the last item in the list is an advert. You can identify adverts in Google search results by looking for the letters AD before the hyperlink. Adverts exist to persuade you to purchase goods and services and can therefore contain bias. The first two types of information in the list are the types of information that are usually the most reliable. For information summaries, there will be trusted websites that you can search directly instead of relying on Google. For health information, the best starting point would be nhs.uk. In the next section, I will show you Google Scholar. By searching Google Scholar, you can limit your search to academic literature, which includes journal articles.
From the main Google search page, I'm just going to type in the word scholar, and it's usually the first result that comes up. The web address is scholar.google.com. And again, it's a very simple search box, not many options. There are the options underneath for articles or case law. I'm going to keep it to articles. And just for an example, I'm going to search for articles on the stages of sleep or sleep cycles. So instead of typing out the stages of sleep, I'm just going to type sleep stages. And that's good practice when you're using Google, just to keep it to the key words. So words like the and of, they're not really important, and Google tends to skip over them. Now, in some databases, the words and or are important because they tell the database that you want to search for this word and this word, or this word or this word. And you can use those in Google, and or, if you type them in capital letters. But what I find is that sometimes it's not that reliable in Google, and that sometimes it ignores those instructions. So here I'm just keeping it to sleep stages. So here are the results, and it looks very similar to a regular Google search. There are these links on the right, and where you see those take you through to the full article. So where you don't see those, what happens is if you click on these links, you'll usually find an abstract of the article. So just a brief overview of what the article's about. Now, interestingly, if I change this search, just the words around, I get a different set of results, or at least the results are ordered differently. So it's always worth trying the words in different orders and alternative words or alternative phrases, because you do sometimes find different results. So looking at these results, I've noticed that quite a few come from the 1960s. Now what I can do is I can apply a custom range or click one of these options to make sure that the results are more recent. So if I click since 2016, then all the dates should be 2016 or more recent than that. And to apply a custom range, I just click here and I can delete that and put in whatever year I want. Other features that are worth pointing out are the links underneath the results. So if you click the star, that saves the result. So if you're logged into Google, you can save results and create a list to go back to. And the next option is a little citation tool. So this is particularly useful if you're referencing the article. So it has different styles on the left. Now, if you're writing an assignment for a university, it's always worth looking at their reference guide, because different universities sometimes have variations on whichever of the styles they use. And you can click on the hyperlinks underneath. If you're using those referencing packages, you can export the reference to those. This link that says cited by 61, you'll notice it's a different number for each one. That gives you a list of articles that reference this article. So that's particularly useful if you find something that you think is useful and then you want to find more recent information, because obviously something that cited this has to have been written after this was written. So that's a really good way of finding recent information. So if you click on that link, it then takes you to that list. So the last link that you see sometimes has a number of versions, and that just means that Google Scholar has found this article on different websites. What you sometimes find if you look at that is that there might be a hyperlink on the right to the full article that you don't see from the result that Google has first presented you with. So it can be worth looking at those. If you're currently studying at a university, you can change a setting in Google, which means that it will show you links on the right where the university has access to that article. So we click on the three lines here to the left of the Google Scholar logo. and go to Settings. And then we want to click on Library Links. So I'm going to type in Leeds and the University of Leeds and click Search. You can see here it's actually picked up the different Leeds universities. So if I click on University of Leeds and click Save, now you'll see there's this link on the right that says Check at Leeds. And different universities will have a different phrase they use there. But what that means is that if you click on that link, it takes me through to the university website. And obviously I'd have to be then logged in to access that article. Something else you can try with Google Scholar is a phrase search. This works in the regular Google search as well, and you might want to use a phrase search if you're looking for a specific article. This means you need to know what the full title is, but the benefit of a phrase search is that it's a more accurate search. So to do a phrase search, you just need to use quotation marks at the start and the end. So previously I mentioned that you could leave words like "and" out of your search, but because this is a phrase search, it's looking for these exact words in this exact order. So, as you can see, sleep stages and verbal memory is the top result. Now below that there are other articles with completely different titles. Now some of them I can see that the words are typed in do appear somewhere on the page, probably in a reference list at the end. So that's Google Scholar, and in the next search example I'm going to show you Google Books. So starting with the main Google search page, I'm going to type in Google Books. And here it is, books.google.com. So it looks just the same apart from the word books underneath. So I'm going to type in War and Peace. I'm just using this as an example to show you how Google Books works and when you might want to use it. So here I'm straight in, this is the front cover, and then the rest of the book follows. Now this yellow bar here, it's telling me that it's found the phrase War and Peace 9 times within this book. It also is picking up these words as they appear individually. This isn't a lot of use to me whilst I'm looking through the book, so I'm just going to take it off. I'll just click Clear Search to get rid of that. So if I click on About this book and scroll to the bottom, up here is the bibliographic information, which includes the publisher, the ISBN, the number of pages in the book. This is useful if you're writing an assignment and want to reference a book. You also have the export citation option, so there's 3 different types of referencing packages that you can export this data here into. I'm just going to search for another book now, The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. Again, you have this search option that you can remove by clicking Clear Search. And here you'll notice it says, this is a preview, the total pages displayed will be limited. So quite often what you'll find with the books that you find through Google Books is that quite a few of the pages are missing, and that's due to copyright restrictions. So here it says some pages are omitted in this book preview. And as we scroll down, we'll find that pages 6 to 7 are not shown in this preview. I'd expect as well, if I carried on scrolling through the book, I'd find many more pages that were not included. So if we click on About This Book and look at the bibliographic information, you can see that it was published in 2001, so it's a reprint. So obviously that's not when it was first published. Now, you might be able to find an older edition if you go back to the search, because there were quite a few editions that came up, so you might be able to find one that has the whole book. So just a little bit of information on copyright. This is a page from the British Library, and on here there is a table which explains how long copyright lasts for different types of work. So for written work, copyright usually lasts for 70 years after the author's death. Mark Twain died in 1910, which means that in 1980 the Adventures of Tom Sawyer would no longer be covered by copyright. Now that means that I would expect to be able to find an edition of The Adventures of Tom Sawyer on Google Books that is fully accessible. So let's go back to Google Books and I'll search again for the title, The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. Now what I'm going to do this time is apply a limit. So where it says any time, I'm going to change that to 19th century. Now the first result that comes up has the publication year of 1876, and I'm pretty sure that is when it was first published. So there's some below that have later years than that. I think 1876 is the first edition. So if I click on that and I'm into the book preview, it's got somebody's name on the top here, so I'm guessing that this has been digitized and the edition that they found did have some handwriting in. So what I'm not seeing is any notifications that are saying that the pages are limited, so that's a good sign. And if I go into About This Book, here I've got contents, and these are all the different chapters. So it looks like I do have the full edition here. The next thing I want to show you is how you can use keywords and phrases and search for those within books. So you don't need to just search for titles of books. So for an example, if I was looking for 3D printing in healthcare or medicine, I could just search for those keywords. I don't know at this point what titles are available, but this is going to help me find them. So these are the results, and I can see from the book titles that there are some here that would be useful to read on this topic. And I use the words healthcare and medicine as alternative words, so I wasn't expecting all these words to appear in the title. I presume the words will appear at some point within the book, and that's why they're presented here. Now from here, if I click on all, that takes me into a regular Google search, so it's searching everything again for these keywords. So we've moved away from the books now, we're just back into everything in the Google index. Which means that if you're searching Google, you can then limit your search just to books by clicking More and Books. So that should be available whenever you're searching. So if you're searching through Google and you're finding some useful things, but you think, oh, I'll just have a look at Google Books. You just click More and then Books.
I've talked a bit about picking your keywords carefully and trying words in a different order. One thing I would recommend is avoiding typing out questions. The reason for this is that there are a lot of question and answer sites on the internet. The chances are someone will have already asked the same question as you before, and someone will have published an answer. What might not be clear is where the person who answered the question got their information from. It doesn't matter who they are or what they know, you may find that their answer comes to the top of the Google results. In the next search example, I will show you how asking Google a question can sometimes give you false information.
I'm going to do what I've just told you to avoid doing and type a question into Google. The question I'm going to ask is one which I'm sure a lot of young people would be interested in knowing the answer to. Who invented homework? So you can see there's a large box here with a name in large font. And if I was doing a very quick search and didn't have much time, I might think, just because it's there at the top and it's so big, that this is the correct answer. It's always important to check where the information has come from. So you can see here it's come from a website to do with college homework. Now it says .org. In fact, anyone can set up a website that ends in .org, so that doesn't mean necessarily that it's a trusted organisation. It's also picked up related questions people ask. So sometimes it picks up the answer from a question and answer type website. It hasn't done here, but I will look at this website in a moment. Now, a little bit below, now this is a very popular question and answer website, and sometimes answers from this website do get to the top of the Google search results. But let's have a look at this website that Google has picked up as the top result. So I'm noticing that at the top of the page there's this link to prices, and there's a link over here that says order now. So it looks like this is a business that's trying to sell some kind of service. So looking through this information, what I'm not seeing is any citations. So it's not obvious where they're getting their information from. Let's just scroll to the bottom and see if there's a list at the end. No, there's no reference list at the end. And again, I'm seeing something here with a price on. So to me, this doesn't look like a particularly trustworthy source of information. It's trying to sell a service, this website, and it's not giving me any references. The next thing I'm going to do is search for this person. So I'm just going to copy and paste the name into the Google search bar. And I'm going to do this as a phrase search. So remember, with phrase searches, you put quotation marks at the beginning and the end. And I'm doing that so that it looks for those words in that particular order. So the first result says debunking myths. No, Roberto Novellis didn't invent homework. Again, looking at the URL, which I mentioned before, is perhaps the first thing to look at in the result list. I don't recognize this website. I don't know how reliable it is. So I'll just carry on looking. So there are images here. Again, these could be real. That could be a completely different person. So I'm just looking at the URL, the web addresses. This is that question and answer website again. tophomeworkhelper.com, that's probably like the website we just looked at where they were trying to sell an essay writing service. Facebook, Reddit, so none of these appear to be particularly reliable resources. Urban Dictionary, Twitter, there's change.org petition. And in fact, I've already looked through the first 10 pages of Google results, and I've not found a single result that looked particularly reliable. So the next thing I'm going to show you is how I could perhaps find out where this information has come from by using some of the advanced Google search functions. So if this Roberto Novellis did exist, you would expect there to be information going back quite a long way about this person. One thing you can do in Google is to set a date range. So if I click on Tools, you'll see at the moment it's set to any time. So I can change that. I'll put in a custom range. And I'm going to do from 1900 to the year 2000. Now you might think, why am I going back so far? Obviously the internet wasn't around in 1900, but as original documents are digitized, often the original publication date is used in the metadata, and that's picked up by Google. So let's just have a look. 1900 to the year 2000. So I'm only getting one result for Roberto Novellis. Actually, it says no results found for Roberto Novellis as a phrase search. It searched for it automatically without quotes. So I can see actually what it's picking up is the name Roberto, but it's a different Roberto. And it's not picked up Novellis, it's picked up the words Neville and is, because they're next to each other. So there are no results for Roberto Novellis from 1900 to 2000. Let's change the custom range. 2000 to 2005. So I need to put the quotation marks back in. So it's found one result. It's got this box here that says people also ask, but that doesn't necessarily mean these answers are going to have come from the date range I've put in. So let's have a look at this from July 2002. So looking down the page, it's not immediately obvious where the words Roberto Novellis are included on this page. I can't see all of these articles. So what you can do in a page is on the keyboard, if you press Ctrl F, you get a search box at the bottom. So I'm going to look for Roberto Novellis. So I can see here it's highlighting and it says 1 of 1 match. So this is the only place on the page it's included. Now let's click read more. Now this is actually saying that this is an assignment written in 2017. So it's not from 2002, it's from 2017. I presume that something on here was written in 2002 and that's why it's picked it up. So it's not actually from 2002, it's from 2017. So I'll try now 2005 to 2010. Okay, we have more results, not that many. And the last one in the list, my antivirus software is actually warning me about that link, not to click on that link, so I won't be doing that. So really we've got 3 results here. Urban Dictionary. This is an entry for a different Roberto, and I should point out that Urban Dictionary is a website that anybody can contribute to, so it's not a reliable source of information. I just wanted to point out, though, that what you find with some Google search results is that it's picked up the words you've entered from a link on the page. So if I scroll to the bottom here, I'd expect to find a link, and yes, it's right at the bottom. So that is what Google has found in the results. There isn't actually any information on this page. So what else do we have? Not much really. I'd expect far more results than this. And in this link here I can see bias in the URL name and obviously bias in this Facebook post. Again, Control F, Roberto Novellis, it's found one result, and that's just from a comment somebody left in 2016. So I think we've found where this information originated. A Facebook post from July 2009. Now there's another site that's worth looking at, Google Trends. Google Trends can be used to look at the popularity of search terms and topics over time. So I'll look for Roberto Novellis. Now the phrase searching doesn't work here, so I'll just type in the words Roberto and Novellis. So I'm going to change some of these settings. So I'm going to change United States to worldwide. And I'm going to change the past 12 months to 2004 to present. So I can see two spikes here on the graph which shows interest over time. One is from April 2015 and the other is from February 2020. So before here, this little point here, 2010, it's just a flat line, so it's saying zero interest, which suggests that there are no recorded searches, but I don't know exactly what data is used to populate this graph. But it does seem to show that the interest in this search term only really started after 2010. And that corresponds to the fact that the earliest result I could find on Google for Roberto Novellis was a Facebook post from 2009. So I've identified that Roberto Novellis almost certainly didn't invent homework and possibly never even existed. The reason that Google offers this answer to the question who invented homework is really just to do with how many times that name comes up in response to that question. So misinformation has spread. If you think about it logically, there might not be a definitive answer to the question who invented homework. But if I did want to find some kind of answer, I would start by looking in history books, looking at the history of education and pedagogy. I've covered quite a lot of information in this video, so I'm just going to look back now at some of the key points and come up with a list of things to remember. Relevant information is not always reliable. Some websites exist to generate advertising revenue and may contain information that appears relevant, but it might not be the most reliable information available. It may be out of date or poorly researched. Check the source. Look at the URL, the web address, to identify a reliable website for the information you need. It can sometimes be difficult to decide which websites are considered reliable. In the next video in this series, I will explain what to look for in order to assess reliability. One thing that I have already mentioned is to look for references. Are there any references on the page? How recent are these? Are you able to find the articles or resources that they have referenced? And do those articles actually include the information that they're presenting? Think about keywords. Try different words in a different order and see how this changes the results. Remember that typing in questions may present you with unreliable results. Use phrase searching to search for words in an exact order. You can use the titles of articles as well as phrases. Refine your results. There's a variety of ways to do this, and one of them is to use a date range so that you find results from a specific time period. Search within a page. Use Ctrl F on the keyboard to open a search box in your web browser. This will allow you to search for keywords on the page and show you how many times the word appears. You can use this tool to find the information you are looking for more quickly and to get an idea of how much relevant information a page is likely to contain. You can search Google Scholar to limit results to academic literature. If you are enrolled with a university, you can link the university's collection to the search result using library links. You can search Google Books to limit results to books. Remember that you are unlikely to be able to access the whole book unless it is no longer covered by copyright. You can search Google Trends. With Google Trends, you can identify how the popularity of search terms has changed over time. You could use this to identify whether you need to rethink your keywords. If the usage of your keywords has declined in recent years, then perhaps terminology has changed. There's one last thing I want to show you really quickly, how to exclude a word from your Google search. You might want to use this if you're getting lots of irrelevant results. As an example, I'm going to type Airedale and then the minus symbol. So there's a space before the minus symbol, no space after it, and the word terrier. And that should mean that I don't get lots of results about the breed of dog, and that the results are more focused on the hospital.